everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this weekly podcast here in the Elevate class. This is our junior and senior high class where we meet weekly to discuss the Bible, back to the basics of the Bible, back to the basics of who God is, back to the basics of His plan for our lives. And so we appreciate you being with us. Hope that you gain much from these weekly podcasts, and we're so glad that you're joining us. All right, well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Elevate podcast as we are discussing here today the Bible. Where did we get it from, and some of its origins. So we're going to share a few questions with everybody and give you the chance to answer and to learn some things here about the Bible. So before this lesson was taught to each of us, to each of you, did you know from where the Bible came?
Maybe. Not really. No.
Didn't really have a good idea from where it came?
Maybe,
okay.
Kind of. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Really.
Okay, so that would segue then into our second question. Where did we get the Bible?
From people that were there to witness the events, and that God inspired them to share it and to write it down and all that.
So their written record is when we pick up the Bible, it's what we read today, right? What they wrote, what they understood by being there and being a part of it. Very good. People who knew God, they knew Jesus, and they had experiences with Him, and then they wrote it down, and that's what we read. Excellent. So we often talk about the Bible being a standard or like a ruler. And we mentioned it that as you go to the gas pumps and you pump a gallon of gas, we know that that's a gallon because the
state inspector comes by.
Yeah, and makes sure that that's a true gallon.
Right.
So how is that like the Bible? A ruler or a standard? How do those two thoughts connect with each other? Anybody want to answer on that?
I would, but I've slept a lot since then. I fell asleep this morning.
Let me put it to you this way. It begins with a C. We use a word to say that's the standard, and it begins with a C, and it's kind of like
canon.
Exactly.
Oh,
good.
Yes.
It's a canon, and it is the standard. A ruler is 12 inches, correct?
Mm-hmm.
It isn't this wide or this narrow. It is this wide. Well, the Bible's like that. It's a canon. The canon of the Bible is the standard. It is true.
It's the whole 66 books.
Yeah, 66 books. Exactly.
Very good. Boom. All right. So in the Bible, we have, of course, the earlier scriptures, the Old Testament, the newer scriptures during the time of Christ, the New Testament. How do those two relate? How do they connect? Why are they all incorporated into the Bible?
Because when Jesus was born, he quoted some scriptures that was in the Old Testament and in the New Testament.
Okay, so we kind of trust Jesus' example, right? So if he used those scriptures, we can kind of believe them too. Good point.
The prophecies in the Old Testament actually line up with what happened in the New Testament. Like prophecies in the Old Testament about Jesus' birth and where he was going to be born and how it was going to be born actually happened in the New Testament. So that's one way that they are like combined.
Good point. So we see here then through several of these different examples that the things that happened during Bible times were recorded accurately, and since that recording in written form has made its way down to us, we can understand where it came from. It wasn't just some strange person that thought, oh, I think I'll write these down, right? But this came from people who experienced it, those who gave the prophecies, those who fulfilled the prophecies, and here we are years later. We can look at all of that and understand, okay, we know where the Bible came from. So that leads us to our last and probably our most important question. Why is it important that we know and we understand from where the Bible came? I mean, who cares? Why does it matter?
It matters because if we didn't know where it came from and why it came from where it came from, bit of a tongue twister, we wouldn't have figured out the entire meaning of the Bible, the contents of it, why it was made, who made it, and we wouldn't have the ability to have it on. We wouldn't have the ability to have it so compact to the point where it's literally an app on a phone.
We're blessed to have that. Yeah. Anybody else? Why is it important for us to understand from where the Bible came?
Because like so that we can know what to base our relationship with Him off of, and so we can know how to live our lives, and so that we can lead others to Jesus as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. If we can understand its history, how it came about, how we now have it, then we can believe it as a reliable, trustworthy source, and we can hopefully help share that with others. Hey, this is why you can believe the Bible, because here's where it came from, here's its origin, and that only helps make everything the Bible teaches and says a stronger, better argument for anyone that we're talking to it about with. So absolutely. So yeah, there we go. That's a little bit of where we got the Bible, brought to you from the Elevate class, and more to come next week.
Hey, thank you for joining us on this week's episode. We're looking forward to seeing you, whether in person or online, next time.